Hi, Charlie. Welcome.
Thank you.
Let's take a moment. Let's take a minute, to introduce yourself. Just say a few words about.
Okay. My name is Charlie Moreno Romero. I'm Colombian. I have lived many years in different parts of the world. But my roots, my second home is Estonia. And originally I studied philology and literature. My thirst for knowledge and growth took me to anthropology, and I started researching education from an anthropological perspective. That was very valuable and interesting, and I ended up in Spain, enrolled in a PhD program that was focused on, is still focused on education for social justice and inclusion. And my research topics was about democratic education. Basically, the research question was, how are these two approaches to education similar, different? How do they support each other? And that was a tremendous trip that changed my life, basically.
We are introducing a little bit of the questions, but let's start. First question: what might be a threshold situation, like a tipping point, in your life or work right now? In other words, some time for unlearning and new knowledge or ideas to take shape.
Okay. Well, at the moment, learning doesn't stop. We have been during the last 3 years engaged in this democratic education project within a public school in Tallinn. The name of the project is Suvemae. Suvemae is a branch within Tallinn's art gymnasium. So we have this pilot project that tries to support growth, development in different ways. We work really closely to families, and we want to engage and involve also civil society to the school. Instead of having an island there based on the abstract thinking, we would like society to come to school and also bring out Suvemae to society. So there is a lot of learning. There is a lot of unlearning in that process. Would you like me to explain a little bit what this democratic education thing is all about? Okay, sure. So according to EUDAC, which is the European Democratic Education Community, there are two main characteristics in democratic education, which is, let's say, a philosophy, a pedagogical philosophy that has been going on during the last 100 years. First one is shared decision-making mechanisms, meaning that kids and adults have the same rights, duties, and they all have a voice and a vote. So they make decisions. Together. For instance, you can use headphones, my love. Thank you. My child is playing the piano there. They make decisions together, like, for instance, what are the school agreements, what are the rules, how to solve conflicts, how to organize different kinds of activities, excursions, celebrations. And this is it supports a perspective of an empowerment from adults, meaning that adults stop solving conflicts, stop controlling behaviors, and it's rather the community, the school community, that engages in that process. Another characteristic is self-directed learning, meaning that we are not the same. We are all very different. We have different potentials, different interests. So we try to get to an agreement. We engage in a dialogue in between the state curriculum and the kids' own interests and skills. And instead of focusing so much on the content, we focus rather on the development of the learning skills, those soft skills, the 21st century skills. Making decisions is tremendously difficult. It's many people are used to others taking that responsibility and telling what to do and how to do. But definitely initiative is one of those characteristics that our societies are craving for. Initiative, the ability to connect with others, to work with others, to listen attentively, to display empathy, to display divergent thinking, considering a problem or a challenge from different perspectives. So we are facing these processes on a daily basis. Then from my perspective, in addition to these two, there are two more characteristics of democratic education. One is age mixing environments, or age mixed environments, where kids of different ages participate in workshops, non-formal learning activities, or just spend time together. Somehow our segregation by age in conventional schools has become a fetish, because in the end of the day, conventional schools are based on these two mechanisms that control behaviors and ways of interacting, which is the timetable and the curriculum. So what we are trying to do is to provide enough time for them also to have access to other kids from different classes, or different age groups, let's say, and engage in different kinds of activities. So the kids are invited to promote, to propose clubs or different sorts of workshops, and also to spend their time, in meaningful ways to them. Free play is also very important. We have seen this, how kids engage in conflicts when they are playing. And then this is a very positive possibility for those for us to engage with them into a reason, into a collective wisdom of what do we need to get to an agreement. When was the problem starting, or what was the root of it? How can we solve it? Instead of us dictating as Solomon King, we are just facilitators. So we are providing questions, empathetic understanding, active listening, helping them communicate. Nowadays, even in younger ages, speaking about 3 to 5, 6-year-old kids, they have really quick access to devices. They know how to surf, they know how to find their games on tablets, on phones, and so they have really limited self-regulatory skills, or they don't know how to communicate, how to deal with other kids, how to connect meaningfully, how to try to find solutions together. So this is a process that we are supporting them. So just as a summary, self-directed learning, shared decision-making mechanisms, age mixed environments, and free play, especially for the younger ones. But also, free play could be putting a puzzle together for older kids, or playing cards and playing chess, for instance. And these are really important moments for them, because they are finding out who they are. They have lots of questions that are not necessarily in the curriculum, and the answer is not in the end of the book. So they need this time to reason, to reflect about this with their peers. So that is the tipping moment. Every day is a learning experience. We have learned a lot in this 2.5 years of SUBEMAE, but we are still learning on how to continue being part of the public schooling system, while promoting a different approach to childhood, one that includes the same respect we display to adults being displayed to kids. Also releasing responsibility, releasing power, and kids starting to get into those situations in which they also need to, but they want to go, for instance, skiing. That sounds perfect. Who is taking responsibility for finding out where we're going to ski, how much it costs? So maybe they take responsibility, maybe they forget. So next time it's a reminder, and until they take this responsibility, things happen, right? And they can feel that there is this process in which they are actively participating in these situations, which is not easy. It's very challenging, but learning every day.
Charlie, thank you for painting this structural image of this project and the school and democratic-led learning. Let's see if you already answered or you want to add something else on this question, briefly sharing from your background 2-3 events or people that shaped your journey as it is till now for democratic-led.
Okay.
learning.
Yeah, definitely. There have been many valuable people. First thing, well, when I got to identify a democratic school, the name is Ojo de Agua, in between Alicante and Valencia in Spain. Then all these conversations with the families, with the adults in the space, they were really, really important. They were opening new gates and just inspiring me to learn more about this. Then I went to the first IDEC, the International Democratic Education Conference in Israel in 2016, and that was a mind-blowing experience, seeing Hadera, listening from the experts, from the practitioners. There I met several people. One of those is definitely, well, Valerio from Peru. Recently he died, but he shared his experience, and I'm very glad that I had the chance to talk to him in this small democratic school on the mountains of Peru. He was a very, very interesting, inspiring person. It's really sad that he has left us, but we keep him always close to our hearts. Another person, definitely, Derry Hannam, former Ofsted inspector in England, who defended Summerhill against Ofsted when Ofsted wanted to close it down. A very wise person, very charming, funny, empathetic, supportive. He has been my support during these 2.5 years of SUVMI. We share this idea that democratic education cannot be only for those who can afford it, but this needs to be an alternative for the most. So even if we have to deal with the conventional schooling environment, how we can adapt it, how we can provide this truly engaging experience to kids, but also to families. And well, reading materials that have come to my hands, amazing. John Taylor Gatto with the nouns of how schooling, actually ruins, has brought us to this critical moment in history. Chris Mercogliano with experience in Albany Preschool. I haven't met him, but I wish I could visit sometime Albany Preschool. And reading about all these cases, Sudbury Valley School, Summerhill. We are collaborating now with Summerhill closely. And we are participating in the organization of the Festival of Childhood, Summerhill Festival of Childhood, that will happen in August 2022. Everybody is more than invited. We will have tremendously interesting activities there, and it's a festival to celebrate childhood, to highlight the rights that children, boys and girls, have around the world, and how we can actually promote more holistic, more respectful growing environments for them. And definitely, what the person who has inspired me to get through this path is my own daughter, who is over there. Sophie, come and say hello. Because she is in my life. Then I started.
Hi, Sophie.
I started to look for possibilities, for alternatives. So she definitely was. I came from a very conventional schooling system, a male-only school with even physical punishments, lots of humiliation, and bullying, also from adults. This brought me to a perspective of questioning. Right, I came also from an educator family, and they were doing things in different ways. My aunts, they're very close to human rights education. My uncle is the best language teacher I know, who has used language to convey citizenship, global unity, and they were fundamental. But I think that this one is like the reason why I got into education. So much trying to find alternatives and create them.
Thank you for sharing that. You have already mentioned a little bit about the future, but we can continue on that, the future that emerges. What is a possible future that emerges for you right now? One idea that you feel you are called. Maybe it's the October 2022, but let's see. And what would you like to see out there in education in 1 to 3 years?
Yeah. Well, we have this project with Subemaya at least until during the next 2 years. Since the very beginning, what we have meant to do, what we have wanted to do, was to build an alternative, as Derry Hannam calls it, is a pioneer of opportunities, of possibilities. Well, Estonia has been in my life for many years. I feel that, one thing that identifies Estonia is that it's really tiny, it's really small, and the locals sometimes even complain, or like they regret that it is so small. But actually, from my perspective, this is an advantage, because whenever you want to impulse, to give a push to change at the social level, the limited space, the dimensions, makes it more possible to connect with people. This has happened for us lately, even though the state support is not so evident. We are happening, and this is really important. I feel that democratic education within public schooling needs to be an alternative. It needs to be a possibility for families, for those kids and those families who feel that the segregation by age doesn't make sense. We are missing Piaget, Vygotsky, scaffolding, growing from each other. We are missing hundreds of thousands of years of evolutionary psychology, of how we learn from others, and we are just putting kids into boxes according to their age. The idea that subjects are divided and they are not connected as the world, that through music we cannot learn history or math. This pushes us to promote a holistic approach where we can learn about the history of ballet, and at the same time learn about the conditions where this was born, and learn about the people themselves, not only the big names, which usually are male, but also about the people, right? Rescue those people who are usually invisible. And that is something that I feel that we are managing at school. Students are making research about the great women in art, and sexual diversity rights, and environmental rights and environmental justice for all. So we are engaged also in these kind of projects, and I feel that this is needed. The 19th century, 18th century school was useful for the industrial society. People needed to, be able to follow orders, instructions. Don't think too much. Just follow the line. The usual life steps. Finish school, go to university, get a job, and just go to pension after that. That is over. We need people to know how to deal with change, who display initiative, who can connect with others, who can have imagination, creativity. We have, unfortunately, we continue raising kids to be individualistic, to be self-centered, not to think of the environment so much, just to achieve for themselves. It's really hard to break those cycles. We believe it is possible, but for that we need to do things in different ways. So yeah, my goal is that. My goal is to continue connecting with people during the next years, and supporting every possibility for kids to learn in different ways, multiple ways, but especially within the framework of social justice and human rights. this is very important that we stop with this authoritarianism that has brought us to this moment in history. I don't believe it is the solution.
Mhm. Thank you, Charlie, for this point. And the last question: how do we engage meaningfully with traditional and indigenous wisdom for the future of education?
Yeah, that is a really interesting question. I feel that we are still trapped within this um, dualistic mindset, the scientific revolution. I don't have anything against science. I trust science, but I do not trust um, um, something which is called in social sciences coloniality, which means we have an Eurocentric background in terms of what is acceptable as knowledge. We have built a series of subjectivities, gender-wise, age-wise, based on those ideas, and we have organized our societies around a very hierarchical structures, where some people decide and some other people just follow orders. We need to break with this. We need to bring more, our what I was meaning about age mixed environments, for instance. We need to bring more the natural side of learning. We understand nowadays that whenever a person is not emotionally stable, doesn't feel that he or she can, it's very difficult for this person to engage in meaningful learning. So how do we actually start considering education not as schooling, but education as a gate to people's happiness, to the discovery of the potential? This was something that struck me, because in many cases when I speak with people, they ask me, okay, but what are the results of this democratic education? So I need to tell them they are limited, but there are research studies about the graduates of those schools. In many cases, they are people who found their passion, their potential, thanks to the fact that they could use their time, part of their time, freely. They could connect to others. They could speak with people of different ages. They could be very assertive emotionally. We need to recover that. That it's more about the human side of education rather than the bureaucratic side of it. Now we want to measure everything. I remember having an argument once after 1 year of school of SUBEMA, somebody told me, okay, but how do you know that the kids have learned? What have they learned? And I was like, well, this question makes no sense. First of all, it's the first year. We started in a very crazy way. Most democratic schools start with 10 kids, 8 kids, young ones. We started with 65 from the first class to the 9th class. So this was like trying to establish, to build a school culture, which only now we can see that is happening, right? So we now have the shared agreements. Now kids are not interrupting so often each other when they are speaking in our school meeting or in the small meetings that we have age-wise or group-wise. So we want to measure everything. We want, sometimes we get families who hear about self-directed learning and they're expecting self-directed learners after a month, which is not possible. First of all, we need to deal with all the issues that have to do with self-regulation, with connecting with others, talking to others, something which is very clear. We speak about school hangover at SUBEMA. When kids come from conventional schools and they, for instance, have a very fixed idea of how learning happens. So learning only happens when a teacher tells me what to do. Learning only happens when I get grades for my work or whatever I do. Learning only happens when I can get numeric feedback, but at the same time, low self-esteem, very poor social skills, screen dependency. So we have a situation nowadays when our kids cannot get bored. When you and me, we were children, we used to get bored, and then we would find activities, right? There was, I remember, only 1 hour of children focus or children address, children meant TV show in Colombia. And then the rest of the time we had to find our activities, right? Play by yourself, use your imagination, go out and play with the neighbors. Um, Nowadays, kids have a very easy entertaining machine at hand, and parents are giving it like if it was candy. Even candy is already problematic. So they don't get bored, and when they don't get bored, they have very little initiative, creativity. This is also part of the school hangover that we talked about. So we need to deal with those. First of all, we promote um, a learning environment in which around 60% of the time we have some sort of semi-structured learning activities because we need to deal with the state curriculum. And 40% of the time is the learner's time. So they decide what they want. How do we get into agreement as to using different resources, or what time it is appropriate to use telephones or iPads for entertainment? We cannot be Sudbury Valley School. I'm not saying anything bad about them, but we are within the public system. We have lots of controls. We need to deal with those. So it is, I feel like a very productive and useful compromise in between freedom and responsibility. Of course, we are not learning history based on dates, but we get to connect somehow the students' interests with some history topics, and then we help them develop research projects as to develop those learning skills. Um, we are, competence. I am able to do something. Autonomy, which is I am able to regulate, to organize my time, to focus on my learning. If I find a question, then I will ask, or I have a problem, then I ask for support. And then oracy, how I speak, I convey my ideas to others. So we are focusing on the development of these three skills, while building a school culture that is respectful, inclusive. It's a very interesting thing, especially, for instance, helping kids deal with conflicts. We have a mediation circle, 5 kids and 1 adult, and we meet every day, and we are asking questions, and we are deploying active listening, empathetic understanding, and trying to listen more to the kids. We need to stop just following these educational schooling fetishes that make little sense. For anybody who is interested, I suggest Melton. He is a historian, and he wrote a book about instruction and absolutism in Prussia. These are the origins of our schooling habits, and we continue replicating them. I'm speaking about early 18th century. So we need to reframe how we are actually dealing with kids. The idea of punishment and reward, this doesn't work, especially when we want to deploy or to help them develop those learning skills, which cannot be measured with exams.
Oh, Charlie, thank you. Listening to you, what it comes to me is that we actually have to access what is very close to us, wisdom, and wisdom is in the learning relation,
Exactly.
student teacher. And what is needed for that is an emotion of courage, just standing, and then awareness, no judging, just looking, awareness, courage, and then accessing wisdom and facilitating wisdom for
absolutely
children.
And we are not perfect, sometimes we make mistakes, and this has happened to us, that and kids also see it and reflect on that. We make mistakes. For instance, sometimes I have just lost my patience. Later on I comment, guys, I'm so sorry, what I did shouldn't have happened. And this is this ability of understanding, which we want them to get really internalized. Mistakes are good. We make mistakes, then we learn. Our schooling system is based on mistakes, punishment for mistakes. So people stop taking initiative, stop trying something new. I'm just waiting for you to tell me what is acceptable. Then I will get into it. Otherwise, quiet.
Yeah.
They do like this all the time. My dear, I don't know. So how to get them to recover their voice is a big process. And emotions are exactly, these are the pillars. How kids feel. They feel accepted. Not that they are allowed to everything. We need limits.
Yeah.
We need boundaries. They feel accepted. They feel welcome. They feel that they belong to the place. Then something can start happening.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you very much for joining and for having this interview with us.
Thank you, Andrea. It's a real pleasure. I hope to continue connecting with people like you who are betting for changing the educational landscape. And we need to join forces. So now there is the Youth Rights Day. I ask everybody to connect on Facebook. This is really important because we need less adults speaking and more young people getting to say, you know, how they're feeling, to demand their rights. Article 12 of the Convention of Children's Rights, I think I shared it with you last time. Children and young people are entitled to be consulted whenever a decision is made that affects them. This doesn't happen. It is not happening. So how do we actually make it happen? That is something that we need all to join forces to achieve.
Thank you, Charlie, so much.
Thank you, Andrea. A pleasure.